Hello, welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, my name is Ev and I like to talk about all things knitting. Lately, I barely have time to knit because of work and I feel like my fiber arts have just been falling behind, so I thought it would be really fun if I could just spin, make some yarn. I thought, you know what, I have 50 grams of this beautiful colored, multicolored roving. It is from Sanjo Silk. It is 50% silk, 50% merino wool, and it is a 50 gram, well, it was 50 grams. This is all that I have left now. I thought it would be really cool to try a new plying technique. The technique that I'm going to be using to ply today can be found in both of these books. First one is Yarnitecture, A Knitter's Guide to Spinning by Julian Moreno. And this one is perfect. It's a great beginner book if you know how to knit and you want to learn how to spin. There's even a couple patterns at the back. It just gives you a really good base and explanation on what are the mechanics behind spinning, what you need to think of when you want to spin a yarn, or what you need to think of when you're spinning, when you want to ply a specific type of yarn, like what is your outcome you want out of your yarn and how to get to that. I use it as a reference book a lot. And the next one is a little bit more advanced. So it's the Spinner's Book of Yarn Design, Techniques for Creating 80 Different Yarns by Sarah Anderson. But this one I say it's more advanced because this one is purely about like how to ply your yarns and how to get different yarns. In this book, you learn how to do boucle yarns, art yarns, a lot more advanced yarns. I don't even know if I would get to making all of these yarns in my lifetime, like how to get super coiled yarns, how to make very funky, fun yarns. So this is the core yarns. Now, if you have these books, the ply that I'm going to be doing today is on page 85 of this book. It is Chain Plying Techniques. But chain ply is essentially when you take one bobbin, one yarn, one ply. You kind of almost do like a crochet technique to wind the yarn up on itself, to like twist the yarn up on itself, and it ends up creating a 3-plied yarn. This is a very good option if you only have like a certain amount of bobbins and you can't actually have like 3 bobbins and plying them all together. If you want to keep your color consistent, so if you have a gradient yarn, it'll keep, because you're using that yarn to loop it against itself, it'll keep the colors together compared to a fractal spin where you purposely split the braid up, flip the colors, separate it in sections so that you have 2 plies, and when you ply them together, it'll be opposite colors together purposely. I do have an event to go to at like 2 p.m. so we'll see how far I can get. This is the first time that I'm spinning 50% wool, 50% silk on my spinning wheel. In the past, I have used this before in a different color scheme, but I did it on my supported spindle, so it was a little bit easier, not gonna lie, because for some reason, the silk is very sticky on my wheel, and I had a much easier time on my supported spindle. I feel like I had a little bit more control, whereas the wheel kind of just like eats it in. So I'm spinning this kind of just for fun, just as like a little test. So I'm trying to be consistent with my spin and my ply thickness, but I'm not like obsessing over it. I'm kind of more just having fun and just, this is just for fun and hanging out. So I watched a couple of Rachel Smith videos yesterday, and if you guys don't know her, I highly recommend you check out her YouTube channel. She has a couple of past live sessions uploaded. One thing that I saw in an older video yesterday was she was saying that some people like to spin like with the machine sideways. And last night I gave that a try, and I don't know if it's because silk is sticky or what, but why did I cross my legs? This right here, I don't know if it's because the silk is very sticky, but this has helped a lot right now. Like, this is just so much easier for me. I would love to try it with a non-sticky, like grippy, it's not that it's sticky, it's more grippy, but I would love to try it with a non-grippy yarn. So much easier. I feel silly. Good thing I just checked because the event I'm going to is Knitflix Vancouver, which is just like, we're gonna watch Love Actually in the movie theater with the lights turned on and anything. But basically it is currently it's 1 p.m. Doors open at 1:30, movie starts at 2:30. I still have this much to spin. Like I thought the doors opened at 2:30 and the movie was at 3. Anyways, all that to say, I'm gonna have to put this on hold and go get ready because I'm not ready and I need to make my way there. Anyways, but essentially this is where my spin is at right now. Would you look at the shine the silk has? Wow. That is one shiny bad boy. So last night I finished the full spin. Now this is very green. Okay, so this is where I'm at with my bobbin. This is what it looks like. So this is only 50 grams. That's all the bag had. It's really not that much. I don't know what you would knit with 50 grams. So we're gonna 3-ply it, see exactly how much yarn we can make out of this. I have my Lazy Kate right here. So I'm gonna put my bobbin. I ended up watching one video on how to do this. So I'm actually gonna wrap you up on the other side if we're doing. So one thing that is very important for when you do a 3-ply chain is tension. You want it to be tightly tensioned so that the machine just like pulls the yarn in. Okay, so the first thing she says to do is to kind of create a slip knot. And you are just, sorry, I just pulled too much yarn out. But yeah, so it's to create a slip knot and then to pass this through the loop because I have a loop right here. Usually this loop, I just pass a single, like the yarn directly through it and I'll feed it through the machine. But for this technique, you need to have a loop because you're gonna pass the yarn in your loop. That's where. So I have my loop here and then I have my feeding yarn here. And because this is something I'm not familiar with, I won't be doing a tutorial. I'm gonna spin up the yarn and then we can take a look at it. As always, I just forgot. I was spinning in Z twist, so now I'm gonna switch to S twist to counter ply my yarn.
And you can't really hide that in your finished yarn. So, what we're gonna do is unwind this a little bit just to get us to work.
I don't know why I'm so red today. But yeah, so I just finished plying and I think I'm just gonna pass it through the bobbin one more time simply because, guys, this was actually really hard to do. And I don't know if it was because of the fiber that I chose. So it's 50% merino, 50% silk. So the merino was very slippery, but then the silk was very sticky and slippery at the same time. So I kind of fought with that. And surprisingly, it wasn't the super thin parts that were hard to ply. It was the unexpected thicker parts. It wasn't even that much thicker than the rest of the single, but because that one section just had a little bit more air, it would untwist and then snap off. So this was a little bit tricky. So I think what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna pass it through my wheel one more time to make sure it's all plied evenly. So in the end, what ended up happening is as I was spinning, I paid more attention to having the just pass through the wheel instead of how twisted it was. So we're just, yes, I'm just gonna pass it. Yes, it's still the same way. Perfect. I'm just gonna go relatively. This should be pretty quick. It snapped right here, and when I reconnected it, it now has like a little random loop. I might have to cut this off, or can I just, I don't know. So this probably took another like 10 minutes just to go through it again and just get a consistent ply all around. But now I have my nitty knotty, so you know the drill. As always, I use a white cotton yarn to tie my yarn together so that when I wash it, it doesn't get tangled. My mini nitty knotty measures 36 inches like wrap, which is a yard. So this is the skein that I was able to create with the roving. It is 50% merino, 50% silk. It measures 103 yards, and I haven't actually checked how many wraps per inch I'm getting here, so I don't specifically know the yarn weight. I would assume it looks pretty thick, so I'm assuming a DK or worsted, and yeah, 50 grams got me 103 yards. So it's a very small, very squishy mini yarn. I'm gonna go soak it in water right now so that I can get an accurate yarn weight measurement. The yarn probably took about 3 days to fully dry out, and this is what we're left with. I am absolutely obsessed with it. It is so soft and so squishy, and this is probably one of the thickest, squishiest yarn I've ever spun up, so like to date. I love it. Again, I only have 103 yards, so it really isn't that much. And of course, I used my little wraps per inch guide to figure out the yarn weight, and turns out I am between an 8 and a 9 wraps per inch, which is 9 is worsted and 8 is an Aran weight yarn. So it is a pretty thick, it's a pretty thick yarn. And I managed to find in my stash my past spin. So this was a Fractal spin, a 2-ply. It's a much thinner yarn, but I just wanted to show you guys as an example to compare. Basically, Fractal is when you take the braid, split it into 2, and then one section you spin as is on one bobbin, and then the other section that you split up, you break it into further parts. And basically what ends up happening is this one you end up having a lot of different colors mingled together throughout the yarn, whereas this one, it's a lot more consistent in the yarn itself. So I just wanted to show you guys these two different plying techniques. However, with chain ply, I don't know how obvious it is here, but right here, you do end up seeing where the chain loop happens. So you do kind of see that everywhere here. This one works even better, but you will have some sections where it's like this. Like here it's blue and green, and here the gradient is pink and blue, and it's just where I did the chain. It's just where I did like a yarn loop. I guess that color change in the single was a little bit more drastic than in other places, but that is something to consider with chain ply. If you have a yarn thickness that varies quite a lot, you will notice where the chain connects. In the end, I'm extremely happy with how my yarn turned out. Now, will I ever do Fractal again? I don't know. Maybe in the future. What was really fun with this was the fact that I only used one bobbin and then I plied on another bobbin. So I didn't have to deal with one bobbin emptying faster than the other one or just having a bunch of different bobbins. It was really simple, quick. Compared to a regular 2-ply, chain ply does take a little bit more technique, a little bit more handling. It is a little bit more, I don't know, I found it a little bit harder, but I do think that it is something I will do again in the future. I do think it is a technique that is worth it. If you haven't tried chain ply yet, I highly recommend you do. This was actually a lot of fun and I love the result. In the moment of spinning it, I was like frustrated, but I think the yarn ended up being beautiful. And I hope you guys have a lovely, beautiful day. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you all in the next one. Bye.